I still remember the sound of their laughter before I even saw their faces. It was loud, careless, the kind of laughter that tells you someone already decided who you are before you opened your mouth. I was standing in the lobby of a downtown office building holding a resume I'd rewritten 5 times, palm's damp heart trying to punch its way out of my chest. One of them glanced at me, smirked, and said, "You sure you're on the right floor, man?" Yeah. That was the beginning. Back then, my name didn't matter much to anyone but me. I was just another guy people sized up in 2 seconds and filed under not important. I grew up in a small apartment with a single mom who worked double shifts and still came home apologizing for being tired. I learned early how invisible you can feel when the world decides your background noise. At school, I wasn't the kid teachers worried about or believed in. I was the kid they assumed would be fine, which is a polite way of saying they didn't expect much. By the time I hit my 20s, I carried that assumption like a second spine. I laughed it off, told jokes, played the role people expected. Inside, though, something was burning quiet, but relentless. The job interview that day was supposed to be my way out. A junior analyst position at a firm everyone knew. Glass walls, fancy coffee machines, the kind of place people brag about on LinkedIn. I'd been invited after weeks of silence, and I treated that email like a golden ticket. I wore my only decent suit, practiced answers in the mirror, told myself this was just another conversation. But the moment I walked in, I felt it. The looks. The pause when I said my name. One guy leaned back in his chair and said, half joking, "You don't really fit our usual profile, do you?" The others chuckled. I smiled too, because that's what you do when you're used to being underestimated. They asked me questions, but not the kind meant to understand. More like traps. You ever worked with high-level clients? Can you handle pressure? This job gets intense. You know. Each question felt less about my skills and more about testing how small they could make me feel. When it was over, one of them shook my hand and said, "Hey, good effort. Not everyone's cut out for this level. Good effort." I walked out of that building feeling like someone had quietly slammed a door on my face and expected me to thank them for it. For a week, I replayed that interview in my head. Every laugh, every sideways glance. Part of me wanted to let it go, tell myself they were right that I didn't belong in rooms like that. But another part, the louder one, kept asking a simple question. Who decided that I went back to my tiny apartment, sat on the edge of my bed, and made a decision that scared me more than rejection? I stopped trying to fit their idea of success and started building my own. I took a job nobody wanted, nights at a logistics company, sorting data, fixing reports. Other people messed up. It wasn't glamorous. Nobody clapped. But it taught me how systems really work, where money leaks, where people cut corners. I spent my days sleeping and my nights learning coding, reading case studies, watching lectures with headphones on while the city slept. Friends thought I was wasting my time. Some even said, "Man, why you working so hard for a job that doesn't even see you?" I didn't have a good answer, just a feeling I couldn't ignore. A year later, something shifted. A small startup reached out not because of my background, but because of a solution I'd posted anonymously online. They didn't know my face, my accent, my past. They only saw the work. I joined them on a short contract, then another. For the first time, my ideas weren't interrupted. People listened. When something worked, they said my name without surprise. It felt strange, like wearing clothes that finally fit. The real confrontation came 2 years after that first interview. Same firm, different context. They were struggling, losing money, bleeding clients. Our startup had developed a system they desperately needed. I walked back into that same building, same lobby, same polished floors. This time, I wasn't holding a resume. I was holding a proposal. One of the men from that old interview recognized me, squinted, then laughed. "Wait, you," he said. "Didn't we interview you once?" I smiled, calm, steady. "Yeah," I said, "you did." The meeting was tense. They tried to take control, questioned our numbers, talked over me like old habits die hard. At one point, the same guy leaned forward and said, "No offense, but are you really the one behind this?" I took a breath. Not because I was scared, but because I wanted to choose my words carefully. I am, I said, and it's already saving 3 of your competitors millions. The room went quiet. No laughter this time, just blinking eyes and shifting chairs. We closed that deal, on our terms. As I stood up to leave, the man who once told me I wasn't cut out for that level avoided my eyes. Another one cleared his throat and said, "Guess we misjudged you back then." I nodded, not smiling. "Happens all the time," I replied. Walking out, I didn't feel victorious in the way movies show it. No slow-motion triumph, just a deep, steady calm, like something heavy had finally been set down. But here's the part people don't always like. Winning didn't erase the past. It didn't magically heal. Years of being talked over, doubted, dismissed. What it did was force me to confront my own internal judge, the voice that had repeated their doubts long after they were gone. I realized how easy it is to become the prison guard of your own potential, enforcing rules nobody actually wrote. Now, when I walk into rooms, I still feel eyes on me. Sometimes curiosity, sometimes skepticism. The difference is, I don't rush to explain myself anymore. I let the work speak. I let the silence stretch. And when someone underestimates me now, I don't feel anger. I feel clarity, because I know something they don't yet. People are rarely what your first impression says they are. I share this not as a victory lap, but as a question. How many people do we quietly dismiss every day because they don't look right, sound right, come from the right place? How many stories never get written because someone was told politely or not? You're not cut out for this. And how many of us are still living under labels we didn't choose, repeating judgments that were never fair to begin with? So here's my ask. If you've ever been underestimated, talked down to, or told you didn't belong, drop your story in the comments. If you've ever been on the other side, the one doing the judging, be honest about that too. Let's talk about where we draw these invisible lines, who they serve, and who they hurt. Hit, like if this hit close to home. Subscribe if you want more stories like this, and tell me, was I right to push back, or should I have just walked away?